Howdy, folks. Oh, God.
That was perfect timing. Sorry. Go
I
ahead.
don't know what that was, but okay.
That was Tigger. Come on now.
Oh.
Go ahead. Continue. Howdy, folks. Yes. I'm sorry. I'm running. I'm here. Yes. I'm sorry. Yes. I'm very, very, very confused today because I am running like a crazy person trying to get all these rumors together and everything that's happening. And really, there's like a whole nother level of this that I haven't even touched into yet, which makes me feel like I'm just a loser. Like I can't how about like Phil Kessel, for example? Like what the
there
hell's
is a
happening
loser.
with him? Like there are certain things that are going on. It's just there are these players out there, like even David Perron. Like I haven't paid that much attention, and we always figured Perlot would sign with Tampa, but now maybe not. And so suddenly, like this whole other, oh my god, I'm sorry, I'm just like I hate to say, I sounded like I sounded
Let's
like
just say that this is a Wade Boggs Monday because a lot of people are playing chicken.
Man, that's a great way of putting it. It's a great way of putting it. And I'm sorry if I'm in the dark. By tomorrow, I'll have this whole set up in my right in the studio, but I'm just like completely confused right now. I got this crazy light here.
I do have to say something because Russ and we'll go to Russ for the pre-show here, but Russ, Anthony, and I normally take a post-draft photo, just signifying, hey, we're here, and we're gonna take. And we're lining up, and a photographer friend of ours is just going to take the photo with one of our phones. And all of a sudden, like one of the NHL workers who was putting away like a spotlight said, "Hey, I'll put that up for." And like this was the most well lit photo any one of the three of us has ever taken. They had a spotlight, and professional. Of course, my eyes were closed when the picture.
Okay, well, yeah,
because the light was so bright. But
I want to talk to you guys about this because everybody that talked about this is the Russ. You've been to how many drafts?
21.
Right, 21. Everybody was saying this was the best draft ever. Do you agree with that?
Yeah.
No.
Yes.
Yeah. Russ,
it was the best draft for excitement, Mike. That's
yes. Oh yeah.
I mean, the most like cool, like to be there for, like just the whole vibe of it, the whole feel of it.
Okay, you have to say this. The reason that was the case, or that felt like the case, is because we had not been together in 3 years.
Well, that's
no, it was more than that.
But give Montreal a little bit of credit for a second here.
Well, okay, let me just briefly say, because I've never been to Montreal, so it was a virgin experience when it came to Montreal. There was no language barrier problems. That was cool. The draft was held like right across the street from the league hotel at the Bell. Where we stayed
super convenient.
Where we stayed was within walking distance. Everybody was relatively pleasant. There was great weather. Yeah, I have like, for me, would just say I have no complaints. Is
Montreal's a hell of a city, Mike.
If you could check your Twitter DM, I'd like you to play the 53 seconds of video as the pre-show. People would love it.
Okay, cool. You keep talking. I will definitely do that.
We're talking Phil Kessel. Phil Kessel's in this video.
In this video? Okay, cool. I will definitely play. I'll bring it up now. But meanwhile, like, just tell me a little bit about the whole vibe, Russ.
I mean, Montreal's a great city, great food. It really has exceptional food. The one thing Montreal has over a lot of U.S. cities, if you're buying like breakfast, whatever, they automatically give you fruit, or with other meals, automatically give you vegetables. Here in the States, you have to like pay for that or ask for that.
Of the four people who was part of your breakfast party, Russ, who was the only one who didn't eat the fruit?
I know, you and I
just love the fact that here you guys are in like one of the most incredible metropolitan, beautiful cities of historic value. An old city, the Notre Dame Cathedral, all the beautiful things, the underground city, the malls, the whole 9 yards. And Russ, you brought up the fruit for breakfast.
Well, and I ate great.
The thing was,
did you guys see anything in the city?
We were
churches and stuff. So
we were so busy.
Not a cantaloupe. I know that, Russ. It's not a cantaloupe.
We were so busy that we didn't get a chance to go to Schwartz's. That we
didn't
get a chance to try the Montreal bagels, even though we were going to match up Montreal bagels against the New York bagels.
I had it before, so I was still pretty confident, but we didn't get to do that.
Yeah, but there was a lot of stuff going on, a lot of news, a lot of excitement. But yeah, it was very interesting. I liked Montreal. I would go back again. I'd actually like to go to a Leafs, to cover a Leafs Habs game.
Even the Canadians had the best spread, Mike, because normally we get the second day box lunch. They did better than that. We were getting like real croissants, and We were getting
Yeah, I mean, the croissants are pretty freaking good.
jelly-filled pastries that were great.
Here's
You want
where
the Claude Giroux video? Is that what we're looking at here, Russ?
Yes.
Okay,
Here-
cool. Here we go.
here's where I draw the distinction, and I'm
Sorry.
taking it from a Toronto perspective because I cover the Leafs. You go to Toronto, and I think if the draft was in Toronto, you would get sort of mild disdain of the Canadians when their pick was coming up. When the Leafs pick was coming up 25th, it was like somebody had taken let's just say something to your daughter. It was really like it was.
Yeah, they were a great crowd.
Yeah. Now the exciting.
Don't you like that? I mean, that's like a cool thing.
Yeah,
I mean, that's like.
Oh yeah.
I like.
I mean, that's what it's all about. I think the Toronto Maple Leaf fans, if they don't do it as loud, that's on them, man.
No. It's respectful, Act. They're much more respectful.
Maple Leaf fans don't care at the draft.
Respectful. I don't know.
Respectful. Yes.
Let me play this for a second. This is here we're going to play. We got for Russ send me over here. Yes, here we go.
This is from the 2012 All-Star Game in Ottawa.
This is 2012 All-Star Game in Ottawa coming up. Here we go. Share. Please work. Okay, cool. Here we go. Excellent.
Yeah, like I didn't know what to expect really, but it was super exciting. I'm sure the fans liked it. There's a couple jokes here and there, some chirping too. So that's pretty cool.
I saw a few sweaty foreheads out there. Is it a little bit nerve-wracking?
At the end, I was getting a little nervous. I wasn't too sure. I didn't want to be a last pick. I didn't want to be a last pick like Phil here, but I think he had a good car, and I think it's a good thing he did to give him a car. Obviously, it was pretty tough last pick.
Disappointed not to be on the same team with Danny.
I mean, it's gonna. I don't know. It would have been nice to be on the same team, but now we're playing against each other. So it's very intense, I think, and it's gonna be a lot of fun. I just can't wait for the game.
You talked about chirping. Will there be chirping on Sunday?
Okay.
So the two things, Kessel was picked last.
Right. Oh, yes. Remember, this is when they picked the players. They picked players.
Right. And he walks by when Giroux's talking, so Giroux gives him a little rip. And I believe that was Danny Briere he wanted to play with on the team.
Right. That was Briere he wanted to play with on that team. That's exactly right. That's really funny. I love that. I love those moments. There were some really special moments in like that in the Olympics in 2010 when you would interview Patrick Kane and Jonathan Toews would walk by behind him from Canada or the opposite, because they're such good friends. They would they would always try to photobomb each other's interviews on TV.
Well, one thing in relation to Phil Kessel, one thing that we did try in at the Bell Center was their famous Montreal hot dogs.
Yeah.
And I have to say, I was a little disappointed. Maybe I built it up in my mind too much, and maybe it was the fact that Russ, they were pumping out like hundreds of them to reporters and people, and maybe they didn't get a chance to cook them the way they normally would.
No, here's the thinking. I've never eaten one, as you know, but I've been to enough things at the Bell Center to know everybody raves about them.
Right.
It seems like the local Montreal writers were like, these aren't the same ones.
There you go.
Okay, yeah, it's a different thing. Yeah, that
makes they mass produced them, and they weren't as good. Now, so that's what I want to cover a Leafs Habs game someday and try the right exactly.
All right,
and
so
I would not try the poutine for your life, because poutine is disgusting.
Poutine's great. Mike is
gross. It is
so
poutine
gross. It's I mean it's definitely a local thing, but it's really I mean I'm not, and I like all kinds of things. I'm kind of with you, Mike, on this, but I do like I've had poutine that I liked. It can be good. It's kind of like that. It kind of reminds like cream beef hash type feeling to me, like
cream chip beef.
Cream chip beef, like that, like when you think about it, you really want it. Like, it's like, oh man, that sounds great. Like, I would love to get some cream chip beef. I'm telling you right now, people are probably thinking out there, they're like, oh man, wouldn't that be great to get some cream chip beef? But then you actually try to eat it, and you are really, really.
I'll give you the equivalent. Yesterday on Iron Chef, and this is the one on Netflix, Wolfgang Puck was eating, and I forget I think it was sturgeon, something like that they made in the vein of SpaghettiOs.
Oh Sturgeon.
And
That doesn't sound
Wolfgang
right
Puck
at
was
all.
like, and listen, sturgeon is this one fish that's
Sturgeon
out at
nose.
every Jewish holiday, and nobody knows how to cook it. Anyhow,
It's the worst of fish. I mean,
it is. But
it's the
Wolfgang
most
Puck ate
disgusting.
it, and he said, I don't know what SpaghettiOs are, but if they taste like this, maybe I should go get a can.
Oh my
He has
God,
no
no.
idea. Like, just,
SpaghettiOs are amazing. Anyway, let's move on. Here we go.
All right.
No, there is a time and a place for SpaghettiOs. Every food has its spot. There's a spot when SpaghettiOs are the best thing in the world. All right, here we go. Hello, Hockey World. It is Monday, July 11th, 2022.
I'm Michael Agello, and if you bought a can of SpaghettiOs in an Italian family, they would charge you with salt.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology. I imagine after you visit the CBD local place, then you get SpaghettiOs.
SpaghettiOs is definitely, that's what I've heard about that. Yes, for sure. SpaghettiOs and Taco Bell. And I'm Eklund. You're watching Hockey Buzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes to you totally sober to bring you the latest comings and goings in the hockey world. And man, oh man. So we don't have Kevin today. Kevin's at the development thing for the Maple Leafs. We will have
Red Wings.
No, I mean the Red Wings. I'm sorry, got Maple Leafs on the brain. He's at for the Red Wings, and he'll be here tomorrow, hopefully, and he'll definitely be here on Wednesday when we start the show at 11 a.m. on Wednesday, before everything else starts. But yeah, we got so many things. I mean, we got to get into some draft stuff with you guys first because you guys were at the draft, and I want to start there. I have I'm going to bring up. I'm working on editing it together to put it up on like TikTok or something. It's really funny. The moment when Bettman calls out the name of the Montreal Canadiens, like Montreal Canadiens are on the clock, and the cameras go. You guys wouldn't see this because you were there, but the cameras go to the Montreal Canadiens table, and literally, this is the look that everybody had.
Yes, but
there was this feeling of terror.
Because they knew the shit storm was.
They knew it was about to happen, and they knew it was knew it was going to go down, and they were like, "Are we doing the right?" And it was an amazing. And I'm sitting there watching it. And I'm like, "Oh, this is nothing. Montreal's going to do." And then when I saw that table, I'm like, "Oh Lord, what's happening?"
I don't know if
Russ,
I don't know if you were on the air at that point.
I was.
Okay, so you were on the air at that point. Anthony,
Which I had just gotten off, but they were on the air.
They were on the air. Yeah, Russ has just gotten off. Russ did a great job, by the way. Great job, man. I listened to the whole thing. It was awesome.
Anthony Mangione and I were both on the draft floor, both at the sort of that wall area in between, like where some of the GMs and stuff come over to the reporters. So we were there, wanted to be out there for the first pick to sort of enjoy the atmosphere of the pick.
It's kind of how this works. Let me explain to Mike a second, and then you can finish your thought because this is kind of like a good thing to explain to people. So how it works is it's like if you've ever been to a concert at an indoor hockey arena, you have like the one side is the stage, and then in the middle of that's the stage where the players accept their stuff and all that. Then the middle of the floor from basically blue line to blue line, a little bit further than that are tables, and then on the other side, well, maybe more than that, but on the other side is another stage. So there's like you have two stages on one side. The other stage are like bleachers, like high school type bleachers, that you'd have a basketball game where the media sits. So there's a wall, like a basically like a curtain that's like just you can talk over it, and but that a lot of times you'll see like somebody from a team come over and talk to somebody from the media. They'll meet there. So go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry.
All right. So I'm standing there, and the crowd, as you described, went nuts when the Canadiens pick came up, and there was a buildup of a couple. Of course, they used up the entire 3 minutes. Like they don't know they have the first pick. Of course, but they're building up tension.
It's drama, Montreal, man.
Right, I get it. And Bob McKenzie, as is right because he's Bob McKenzie, reported on Twitter that the pick was Slafkovsky. Now. 19,000 people in the Bell Center are not on Twitter. Yeah. So there was about maybe 30 seconds where the word could have been spread, but more than likely they were just enjoying the moment. Yeah. And Kent Hughes comes out and, says it in French, says it in English, and then says Juraj Slafkovsky. And I will tell you right now, they can say everything they want. And maybe 15 minutes later, everybody was like, fully behind it and back. That crowd was stunned, and it was a mixed reaction. It was not 100% pot. I would say it was maybe 50-50.
Yeah, I mean, I was 40 feet from the stage, and the crowd's right there. They were stunned.
Yeah, there was a lot of boos. I mean, there were like, I was getting Karen, who was there. She was taking pictures and sending me pictures of guys, wearing like, already like Canadian right jerseys on, that kind of thing. or like make the right choice, spelled
Yeah.
up with a W, signs holding
Well,
up.
the strange thing, Act, was that, and okay, I'm sure the Canadians didn't control this, but the NHL ran sort of a video montage of like the top 2 or 3 picks. Slavkovsky wasn't one of them. The first one was Wright, and then it was Logan
Right.
Cooley, and it was right before the first pick. So everybody, like when Wright's name comes up, everybody's cheering because they're expecting Wright to be the pick. It was sort of like a move in WWE, Russ, where they're pumping up somebody and then they undercut his legs.
Well, I mean, but they don't know, right? So they're just going with what they figured too. And even though I had heard it was Slavkovsky the day before, I poo-pooed it because I was like,
we talked about it. Yeah.
I don't think it's going to go that way, but it did. There will be tremendous second guessing if Slavkovsky is not the player that he's supposed to be.
Yes.
But I'll tell you the team that was even more.
Yeah, like he has the potential to be.
He has the potential to be a top line winger. He's not going to be a center.
Yeah.
And
right.
It all depends on his defensive game. He doesn't have one right now.
Yeah.
We'll see if he gets one. But his shot's there, the skating's there, the toughness is there.
Yeah.
But here's okay. And we talked about this after the draft, Doc. And again, we don't know what's going to happen. We'll have to look at the next 2 or 3 years and see how Shane Wright progresses and see how Slavkovsky progresses. All I can say is this: when after the draft, I was anticipating it was going to be Nick Suzuki and Shane Wright as your 1-2 up the middle, and I thought, that's pretty good. I mean, you don't have a pure number 1 there, but you have 2 really good number 2s. Now, after this draft, after they decide to take Slavkovsky and after they make the other moves, it's Nick Suzuki and Kirby Dach as your 1-2 and Slavkovsky playing the wing. That's not good. So I don't think.
I mean, I think the Kirby Dach pickup definitely, if they had announced that trade before the first overall pick had been made, I think people would have been way more understanding of the Slavkovsky thing. I think because they got a center there, and I was wondering why they didn't do that sort of, because what everyone thought, of course, is when they go up to announce the Montreal Canadiens trade that they have traded for that pick, and that now they're going to get Wright as well. And I think that's what everybody was starting to think. They had traded to get the 4th pick from Seattle. Now Wright was going to be there, so they were going to have both of those guys, right?
So to answer Mark in the chat room, he could be like Brady Tkachuk, yes. But the second pick is where there was real panic. New Jersey was panicked.
Yes.
Not that they didn't know Slavkovsky would go 1, just on the choice they were going to make. Because they were, it was uneasy at that table. I was watching.
Plus, I think it's a bad movie, but the movie Draft Day, where the player who's going to be picked first all of a sudden doesn't get picked first, and then all of a sudden he's falling off the board. These teams, they don't expect Shane Wright to be on the board at 2 or at 3, and they have to reinterpret what they're going to do. So, in a vacuum, if Nemec is there at 2 after Slavkovsky is picked, or even after Wright is picked, then maybe they go with Nemec even if Slavkovsky is there at 2. But now that Wright's there, now they have to reevaluate everything that they've been planning for in 3 minutes to decide whether that's the right pick or not.
Okay, so to answer Esmir, the Devils do not have better centers than both Logan Cooley and Wright. Jack Hughes is better than one of them.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah,
it stopped there. And so they made a choice. They decided we don't need any more centers. Cooley and Wright are okay, but we're going to go and take Nemec. And it's like, that's fine. But if Cooley and Wright are, 12-year All-Stars and Nemec is just okay, they're going to hear about it.
Right. Yeah, I think you're right. Now, Nemec is the guy that the Flyers really wanted. Seattle really wanted. I think Seattle was expecting to get him.
Would never get him.
Yeah, you didn't think he'd make it to 5. That's who they wanted, though. But the Seattle, I think, expected that's who they were going to get, right? And I still really can't help but feel, and even listening to like Jeff Merrick, who I really like, and I think he's really tuned in. Even listening to him talk about it, I still can't help but feel that the success of Cale Makar was partially part of this. Like that, like seeing Makar, went like 4th or 5th in the draft, and everybody was sort of upset about it because now, and everybody's saying he's the greatest player ever.
You can make the argument.
Yeah, but neither one of these guys is Cale Makar.
I know, but
it's just the idea we need an offensive defenseman.
The idea of how good a defenseman can be there that slips to 4 or 5, and the Devils looking at their lineup, and the Devils who really are defense heavy,
I think
I don't
that
know.
had more of I think that had more of an effect later in the draft with guys like Korchinski being drafted
Yeah,
and
maybe.
other offensive defensemen. Whereas I think they would have been drafted a little lower had the Makar effect, if you want to call it. But I mean, everybody said that Nemec and that Juracek were going to go in, say, the top 6 or 7.
Yeah,
So
we
that,
all knew that.
yeah, there
Yeah.
wasn't a great change. But okay, focusing on the trades here, Ack, because I
Well,
think
no, hold on. We got a little bit more analysis here. So,
Yeah.
as far as Seattle,
Yeah.
we saw a picture yesterday of Matty
Yeah.
Beniers and Shane Wright at the ballpark. That is a gift.
Yeah.
Seattle got a gift that most franchises never get.
Yeah. Absolutely. And Wright might have actually secretly gotten a gift too, to be honest.
Oh, yeah,
Like
he might have.
this might be the best spot for him when you look at those top 4 teams. Like, because I
the
mean, he
pressure
goes there
on
and he can really be himself, and he can be, and there's without Wright's lived under a spotlight for a very long time, you know, and
I mean, the
Uh,
pressure on him in Montreal, Ack, would
let
have
me-
been ridiculous.
So I agree with that.
yeah, of course, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
now we get to
That's what
Philly.
I'm saying.
And so, I've
Yeah,
been
go
telling you it's between Juracek and Gauthier. I knew they were totally dismissing Matt Savoy, which is a bad idea, but I knew that. So I didn't even, because I still think
Yeah.
Matt Savoy is better offensively than Cutter Gauthier all around.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
believe that, and I believe that now. But if you go with organizational need, they should have taken Juracek.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
they
I
knew
agree.
Ryan Ellis at that point was
They knew
going to
it
be a bigger issue. They already were talking D'Angelo, because I saw Chuck on the phone the next day right in front of me, because he literally backed up to me on the phone. I just didn't know that was going to be for D'Angelo the next day. So they knew
Yeah.
that there was probably discussions already, and it's like they didn't take the need. Okay. But now you took Gauthier. Why? Great shot, and he's bigger. You look at their draft, and they chased size. Everybody was big except for Gendron.
Yeah. It's true.
So, but
I
okay,
agree, and they went. I mean, they did the Flyers feel like they're too small thing, and that they do feel like they're too small. And boy, we got a lot. We'll get into so much stuff about them in a little bit
That's
too.
all I
but,
wanted to mention.
but I love the domino effect that happened from, like, okay, for example, the Matt Murray rejected trade to Buffalo.
Yep.
He was supposed to go to Buffalo along with the number 7 pick for the number 16 pick. So they're going to give up 9 spots in the first round.
Right.
To get rid of a $6.25 million contract and retain 25% of that. Murray has a limited no trade clause. He blocks the trade to Buffalo.
Yeah.
Then Pierre Dorian flips around and trades that pick to Chicago for Alex DeBrincat. Now, I want to talk about Chicago, Ack, because what an absolute friggin' disaster this organization is. They're lucky that they won 3 Stanley Cups over the last decade, because it may be another 50 years before they win another cup the way they're operating right now. Not only have they've traded DeBrincat, not only did they not qualify Kubalik and Dylan Strome, now in a way they're forcing Jonathan Taves and Patrick Kane out of Chicago. At least that's the way
I don't know what's more. I don't know which one. I mean, Kubalik and Strome both are just horrible guys to not qualify. I think both of them. I mean, both of them are equally, to me. I don't. I really have a hard time with that.
Strome is questionable. Like that one, I don't get. Kubalik, I do agree, was kind of like, too fast. He was going downhill the last couple of years, and that qualifying offer was a lot. All that said, that's still on Chicago, because that's the way they sort of built their team. So.
And all this has brought up the domino thing, and we should let's go with the domino theory, Mike, and continue on that, because it's easy to transition into everything else I got on my board here. All right, so the dominoes of that trade, okay, and of Kirby Dach being moved away, first of all, there are other teams that were pissed off about. There are other teams who thought they could offer more than actually. I heard that too.
I heard Columbus. I heard Columbus was one of those teams for Dodge.
Philly was one of those teams too. I think Philly was one of those teams too. And then Philly does turn around and take some of the picks they were going to use in that. And that's the domino continues there. And let's shift to Tony DeAngelo. So now they end up with DeAngelo, Russ, who I know, he's from your area. He's right. He's probably the closest NHLer to where you live, right?
He's the closest, and then Goudreau is next.
Yeah. Mike Richter's the closest for me as far as where they grew up, but where they live. But yeah, so he's really close and had a much better year last year, obviously, but has attitude issues. Is coming to Philly's not a democratic town. I'm not going to throw that out there or anything, but it's just like probably the least. Not that that matters, but I'm just saying this is the town that once had tried to get anyway. I'm not even gonna go into it. So this is that town, and then you also have Tortorella. People questioning Tortorella, who obviously was okay with this trade because that they talked to him about it. So that makes me think that Tortorella believes he can save him. He's always wanted to be a Flyer, Russ. We know this. This is like something that was really not even mildly. I mean, his family, his father, from what I understand, was really upset when the Flyers didn't trade him. What was the initial story, Russ, with him and Ed Snyder, right? Because there was a good one, I think.
I don't know about the one on Ed Schneider.
Okay.
I know everything that went on in Sarnia, and a lot more went on than was reported.
Yeah.
So then you get past that, you get to where he is now. Most of what's happened on the ice, not everything. There's a few other things, and yet they're still willing to take the player out of desperation. So what bothers me is it's okay for Tony to go on interviews and say, I'm not a racist, even though it's for you to decide, not him. But the other thing was he brought up states' rights on his introductory, interview with the media. And it's like, what that basically is he is now sort of dipping you into the Trump pool saying, this is all I like about Trump. It's just states' rights. It's nothing else. And it's like, you shouldn't be bringing that up at all.
Yeah, he knows though the Philly is a town that's going to judge him on that really harshly. So
I know,
this is a really bad town to do this in. I mean, so I mean, the bottom line here is okay. Let's just get away from all of the. Let's pretend he's a player who's going to be fine, that he's going to do what he does, which is just be a top 4 NHL defenseman, which I think he is when he's playing at his best. So let's just taking all the other stuff away, all the selfishness or whatever out of which is hard to take out of the picture because there's so much of it, but take it away. Is there any reason that you make this trade and hinder your chances of doing something else with that $5 million that you give him? This is what I don't understand.
No, because again, they're the only ones that would give him $5 million. Carolina didn't want to be anywhere near that.
Right.
They knew about Ryan Ellis. I guess they called around. This is the best they could do.
The only way it makes any sense, Eck, is if they know for a fact that Ryan Ellis is going to end up on LTIR, because they wouldn't spend the $5 million.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. But I also think the only way they do this is they know Johnny Gaudreau is going back to Calgary. That's the other thing that occurred to me.
No, I think there's more. I think there's more here in terms of moving players out, whether it's JVR or Konechny or something.
There is,
else.
but this is $5 million of that salary.
I get it.
Like, so whatever you're doing, if you're moving, it's like moving JVR now doesn't even do anything really. It gets you back to like where you were before you signed D'Angelo.
Well, remember they can go 10% over the cap during the summer, so they can sign Gaudreau and say, okay, we'll take care of the cap problems after.
Yeah, well, maybe. Yeah, but good luck. I mean, that that's going to be tricky. And then the other, and that then they're in like a Vegas type situation eventually. If Ellis comes back, like because Ellis, who knows, right? He could come back, and I know they have a feeling he won't come back, but he could come back. There's a lot of so to me the Philly, and I've gone back and forth with Gaudreau and them. I was told flat out that it's either Philly or Calgary for Gaudreau. That's what he wants, and his family who's in the area here is they have not been shy about the fact that's the case, honestly. And that's so when it comes down to it, Philly is trying everything they can do. They're trying to move JVR, but now the big thing is how bad could Philly be this year, and do they want to keep their first round draft pick next year, which they better.
Good. They have to keep it because they're going to be bad.
Yes.
That's what everybody thinks, but they don't think that. So they could move that draft pick.
Denial. They're living.
They won't move the draft pick. They're telling you that they're going to be good. They're trying to be.
Right. And
the universe is really not letting them. Bobby Brink's hip surgery. You can name a million things. But then back to D'Angelo, when they say they did the due diligence, where I would disagree is, did you not see in the playoffs where Marchand got him off his game? And even in the final series, he was responsible for some bad goals again.
And the playoffs before that with the Rangers. The playoffs before that with the Rangers, Russ, in the bubble. Was it the bubble? Where was I? Wasn't the bubble, but there's a playoff before that with the Rangers in that series. He was a
Against
disaster.
Carolina.
It was
Against Carolina.
He was a disaster. Remember?
But Russ, I mean, Kreider and there was I think Mott. They got him off of his game as well in that series. So I mean, okay, if it was just limited to his talent on the ice, I would say that's a fine signing. But the thing you have to be concerned with is if he's bringing up the political bull crap already. Basically, they should tell him, you stay off Twitter, you stay off Parler, you don't talk about politics, you concentrate on hockey, and shut your friggin' mouth. And if he does that, he could really and maybe he's motivated here because this is the one team that he actually wants to play
but
for.
He's been motivated every time.
Exactly, Ross. So that's my point.
But there is something, Meg. I mean, I think they're thinking like you're thinking that this is the Flyers and that he's going to want to. Right, he's going to be better. His family's here. His family might keep him in line a little bit.
Is going to be his father will be at every game.
Oh, I know.
If you tell me they're going to get through a season with no quotes out of his dad, I would be shocked.
Oh no, but I think my hope is his father will keep him in line a little bit. Perhaps.
No, that will. Heck, go back and listen to the video from a couple of years ago.
I know, and
it's impossible.
The story I heard about the Flyers and when they didn't draft him, his father was really upset, and Ed Snyder was basically saying, "I'm not drafting him because I don't think he has the right attitude for the Flyers." And then this was before he was even drafted. Okay. And Ed Snyder was like, "We're not," because the Flyers had an opportunity to draft him and passed, and they passed by him, and that was a big deal.
It's on NHL Network with D'Angelo's dad saying to D'Angelo, "Well, guess you're never playing for him."
Yeah, remember that?
I never took that as a guarantee, but the thing is, this is his 5th team.
Yeah. I know. 5th team already, right? And
Tampa Bay, Arizona, the Rangers, Carolina, and now Philadelphia.
Yeah, that's a lot of teams for a player his age and
for such a talented player.
To me, the due diligence ends with why is Carolina not keeping him after the season he had? Like, it's not even a matter of like
you can do all they placed a financial number on him. They know what he can do offensively. They know he's a liability defensively. They knew while he scored 10 points in the playoffs, he still was a liability part of the time.
Yeah.
So they probably said, "We give you $4 million, no more."
Right. Yeah. And that's so here we are, right? And they worked it. So that domino, like I said, I think affects Johnny Gaudreau, and the Gaudreau, the D'Angelo signing, I think affects the Flyers' ability to sign Gaudreau, and there's really no way to think it doesn't. So to me, at the end of the day, now will the Flyers get this done? Last text I got was, "We really want him, but we're having a really hard time." And that's what everybody's been saying. Everybody's been saying the same thing. They really want Gaudreau, but they're having a hard time figuring out how they're going to make that work. So
they're going to have to pay him at least 10 because Calgary offered him 9.5.
Yeah, and Calgary's apparently willing to go higher than that. So that's what I've heard too. Like, I've heard Calgary could go to 10 or 10.5.
Right.
They still think they're pretty confident actually that they can get him because I think they realize that there's just not that many places for him to go, and there's not many teams that could sign him. Like, the Rangers could sign him, but the Rangers seem more interested in JT Miller. And and now the Rangers might be interested in Patrick Kane, so there's that too. So
and the Rangers might be in on Nazem Kadri too, supposedly.
Yeah. I have heard. I did hear.
Where's the Ranger money coming from?
I don't know, Russ. You tell me. Like, why are the Rangers in all these rumors? Like, where is? You tell me. Do they have any cap space? What's going on? I mean,
not much, not a lot, not enough.
Do they have a way to make cap space up? I mean, they moved Georgiev.
They got rid of Georgiev, but still not enough.
Yeah, I mean, now. The interesting thing here I heard too is that if Gaudreau goes, the most likely replacement for him in Calgary would be Kadri, and I heard that today as a clear-cut thing.
But there's a problem with that.
Go ahead.
The problem is that 3 years ago when the Leafs were trading Kadri, they originally tried to trade him to Calgary. The deal was Kadri for TJ Brody and Mark Jankowski. And Kadri blocked it. He did not want to go to Calgary. So now that he has free will to go anywhere he wants, now even if they offer him the most money, why would he want to go to Calgary? I think it's a long shot that he's because first of all, they play different positions.
Right.
Kadri's a center. They don't need help up the middle. They need a scoring winger. So I don't see that.
The Rangers projected cap space or current cap space is 10.2. They have 6 UFAs, actually 7, and 1 RFA in Kako. They could buy out Nemeth, so that gives them 12 and a half. Actually 13, but that's not enough to. You can't bring in a $9 million player. They can't do it.
I don't know. I don't know how they could do it. And, and for Patrick Kane or what have you. Now, here's the really interesting rumor. And I wanted to spend some time. We're going to get, by the way, we're going to do our 5 minutes on Matt Murray and all that. And
I'll just tell you how they could do it with Kane. Chicago could eat money and they could do it. And the Rangers have to give up prime assets, which I don't think is a good idea. I don't think
it's a great idea either. I mean, but Patrick Kane has always wanted to play there. I know that. It's if he could play anywhere, I heard that's the team he wanted to play for. So that makes me wonder a little bit. But the big rumor is this, and this I wrote about today, and this is, I know I'm going to get ripped to shreds about it. I was prepared to get ripped to shreds about it. But here's the thing, and that is that the Colorado is in on Patrick Kane big time. And
I don't think you should get ripped to shreds on that one, because that makes a lot of sense, because they tried to trade for him. They asked about him last year. So no,
they tried to trade for him. And here's the thing, Nichushkin, they're working out Nichushkin, right? They're trying to work out Nichushkin, but they're really far away from what I've been told on the AAV or whatever. Obviously they're letting Kadri walk. They've got a ton of space and a ton of stuff to do things with. They have a ton of stuff to do, but Patrick Kane for 1 year,
they're letting Burakovsky walk. Apparently, they're maybe letting Manson walk.
Yeah,
but
they've got money, right?
Yeah,
why not try that, right, Mike? I mean, if you're going to put him anywhere where it seems like he's going to want to go, obviously he's not going to want to go to a team that doesn't have a significant chance to win.
The most attractive thing about Patrick Kane to Colorado is the fact that he's got 1 year left in his contract, and that Chicago is clearly motivated to go for Connor Bedard. So they're going to retain 50% to increase the return that they will get on a Patrick Kane deal. I think it's a 1 year retention act. It makes all the sense in the world.
No, I agree. It does make sense. And I think, and I've heard that, the Colorado believes that they can extend them. They really feel that they could have that. They could have this McKinnon, Kane, Makar as their 3 big, over $10 million players or what have you. And that gives you, and that really puts them in a powerful position. I mean, so if I'm going anywhere with Colorado right now, I'm with Patrick Kane right now. Yeah, and you have to think he's moving. You have to think they're moving him, because there's no way he's staying there at this point. Like
they've made it apparent based on how they've operated the last 72 hours that they're not interested in contending for a generation. The way that they're just scorched earth in Chicago. If you're walking away from young players because of purely money, when does Seth Jones ask out, and when does Evander Kane, Patrick Kane and Jonathan Taves ask out?
Yeah, I mean,
it all happened at the same time.
I think it's already happened, right? I think Patrick Kane's already asked, to find a place, and basically what's going to happen there is Patrick Kane's agent's going to go around and try to make a deal. Because that's what's going to end up happening, because it's going to put Patrick in a place where he wants to go and make a deal. So I think that, it's hard to imagine many places Patrick Kane go. I heard the Flyers rumor over the weekend, which is again insane. I don't know how that could possibly be done or why they would do that. But they are trying to do something here that really, they're really big. They're trying to make a big splash, and I don't think that splash is Tony DeAngelo. So I think that something else is going to happen to the Flyers here. But Patrick Kane. I mean, now here's another. So the other domino we have to talk about is Malkin, and we'll get to more of this too. But the Malkin stuff, which came out over when you were at the draft, made Malkin sound like he was really unhappy with the whole situation,
especially in the wake of Letang signing the contract.
Yeah.
But if you look at that Letang contract, and I said this to Russ and the guys, it's a 3-year deal masqueraded as a 6-year deal. Yep. Friedman reported that Letang was getting offers of $9 million for 4 years, and I'm like, wow, whoever was offering that is dumb, because we know his injury history. But the first 3 years of Letang's deal are $8 million, and I think 6.8, something like that, and then it goes down under 5 the last 3 years. Not to say he's going to return, because under 5 is still pretty decent money, and if he's still a good player at age 38, then fine. but
Yeah.
really it drops off. And if he retires after 3 years, he gets 3 big paydays
Right.
and then retires. And I think Malkin is probably looking for a similar thing, but it sounds like he wants to get paid close to what he was getting paid before. And the Penguins are just not doing that because he's been injured constantly the last few years.
Yeah. He really has. And it's, the Penguins are in a real spot because they took that article that came out, it was a big PR blow to the fan. The fans are going crazy. What I've been told, the fans are just like calling now. They got to sign Malkin. You got to sign Malkin. You got to sign Malkin because they felt like Malkin's comments, text to his teammates that were all leaked, all that stuff.
Yeah.
If Malkin does move on, and then some people say go to Russia. I think that's insane. He's not going to Russia.
No.
I think he just retires and doesn't play again before he goes to Russia.
I think he's going to Washington. Washington makes, especially if Backstrom is out for the rest of his career.
Yeah.
He's the number 1 or number 2 center replacement for Backstrom. So that makes a ton of sense.
Yeah. I mean, it would feed that drive, or even more so, right? That would be fun for everybody.
That's what I said.
But Giroux could be the backup plan if Malkin moves on.
I do think it could happen. I do.
Yeah. What's going on, Russ? Your connection is pretty bad. Why don't you log out, log back in?
No, your audio was going in and out too.
Mine's going in and out too.
It was, but now it's good.
Okay.
But I'll say this. I mean, like I said, I think that there is a lot of chicken going on here. I think obviously Malkin is trying to get the best deal he possibly can out of the Penguins, and only by last resort does he go someplace else.
Right.
We've heard for a couple weeks Letang was closer than Malkin. Letang was going to get a deal done, and it happened. Forsberg was going to. Kevin said Forsberg was going to get a deal done with the Preds. It happened.
Yeah.
So the ones that we heard were going to get done have gotten done, and the ones that are up in the air are still up in the air. So it's really it's playing out the way we thought it was going to play out. Right.
That's true. That's and so let's get into the goalie caravan for a second.
Oh, yes.
So it really looks like Kemper's heading to Washington.
Yes.
That seems that we're starting to see like the stuff that we're starting to get to the point where we're hearing the things that are going to happen. And this happened in the last several UFA days where these things just end up finding out about them today and the next couple of days, and then they end up just happening at noon. Kemper to the Capitals looks like a done deal.
Well,
Campbell to the Oilers looks like a done deal.
Well, okay, let's go back further than that. The domino started to fall even before the draft. When Casey DeSmith signed with Pittsburgh, that essentially took Pittsburgh out of the running for Fleury. Not that we think it was the great guns, but that is what it is. Then the Georgiev deal happens. So Colorado apparently gauged that Kemper was going to be asking for Philip Grubauer money, which is like $6 million a year, and they said forget that. They go to get Georgiev. Now Georgiev signs a $3.4 million times 3 deal. So now him and Francouz, they're spending less money on their 2 goalies than they would be spending on just Kemper. So that's a fallback, and they won a Stanley Cup, so it's like the pressure's off of them. Vitek Vanacek goes to New Jersey. Now, I talked to somebody and they says, I don't think that New Jersey is going to settle on Vitek Vanacek and Mackenzie Blackwood, that they're going to be in on a goaltender. So they could be still in on Campbell, but Elliot Friedman's reporting that it's very likely that Campbell is going to Edmonton because Edmonton is willing to pay him 5 years at 5 or maybe even over 5. And again, if you want to look for a stupid contract, look to the Edmonton Oilers because they usually are the ones that do it. It's like, hey, I said, I wish Jack Campbell the best. I wish I'm very happy for him if he gets that deal with Edmonton. The Leafs couldn't sign that deal for him because A, they don't have the cap space, and B, they have firmly established over the last year that they didn't think he was worth that kind of money, because that was the ask that Kurt Overhart made after the Leafs offered him a 3-year contract of under 3 last summer, and Overhart came back and offered 5 times 5, and that stopped the negotiations, and they supposedly have not talked since. So
No, they talked yesterday.
well, face to face. It was a face to face meeting. Yes, that was the first time, and it basically sounds like the Leafs said, "Congratulations and enjoy your time in Edmonton."
Yeah, it does sound like that. I really do think that that's the case. And but I don't know. I mean, that's what it sounds like. I still am holding out hope here that they don't do that, because I think that I think I think at this point it's basically done. They're going to lose their starting goalie to Edmonton, and that's what's going to happen. And they're good. So you're going to end up in a different situation. Now we want to get.
I do want to bring this up back because
Yeah.
I feel this in my heart.
Yeah.
I feel like if the Leafs get the wrong combination of goalies, it's not a guarantee they make the playoffs.
Oh,
I'm with you.
stop.
I'm 100% with you, because this is a team that's not defensively solid. I mean, this is a team that needs goalies to be good, and they need that, and they need goalies to make big saves at big times. And I'll go even further to say that I don't know that the coach and the GM will make it through the whole season. I feel like, because if they're even if they're struggling to the point where they're like 2 or 3 or 3rd or 4th in that division, and right around the bubble where they could make the playoffs, still, it's going to be. I mean, they're hoping on so many things now. Obviously, they've hung their hat on Matt Murray as their starter for next year.
No. That's where there's a misinterpretation here, because
Okay, well, who is their starter then?
well, no, but let me. Okay, when I was in the scrum with Dubas, I believe it was Kevin McGran asked the question about, are you going to go with a number, purely a number 1 and then have a backup, or are you open to a tandem? And he was talking mostly about trading for goaltenders and not signing free agents. And that was at the point that, I think Georgiev had been traded at that point.
Yep.
And Husso had not been traded yet. That was the one domino we forgot to mention.
Right.
But they recognize that the goalies in free agency are going to get overpaid. Like everybody gets overpaid in free agency. And I understand that, but when you have to do that, but you have to have the money to be able to pay that. And they didn't get Campbell signed to an extension throughout the year, didn't get him signed last year, and they don't think he's worth $5 million. He's a good goalie, but he's not worth that to them. So the trade option is what is open to them. I believe, and based on what I had heard, and then also hearing what Elliot Friedman and Jeff Merrick reported about Murray, obviously there's the connection to Dubas and Sheldon Keefe going back to June. The goaltending coach for the Leafs, John Elkin, is somebody who has worked with Murray over the last few years. Murray is not at this point the big question, and that's the thing that they're doing their due diligence on right now, is his health. That is the $64,000 question. That leads me to believe that yes, Murray would be part of a tandem in Toronto, where he would play 40 games, not the 60 games, not the 50 games, a tandem, which means they'll probably be out there looking for another goaltender, somebody who could play half the games. Who that is? Could it be Jake Allen? Could it be, there are a number of other goaltenders out there.
The Canadians came out and said they won't trade Jake Allen now. Is what I heard.
Okay.
Yesterday.
Yeah,
they're not going to move Jake Allen because they don't really know what's going on with Price, and they got to have it. They got to have a goalie.
But it could be somebody of that ilk, and if that's the case,
So you're looking at some backup from a team that's not in the playoffs.
No, not a backup. So it's a 1A, 1B scenario. And the thing is, everybody is putting out there, well, Murray is a disaster because of his injuries, and Murray is a disaster because he's making $6.25 million. If the Leafs are trading for him, he's not going to be making $6.25.
No, I agree with you. Murray would be a great backup if they had their starter in place. If they had a starter in place, Murray would be a really interesting call because he
might be able to play 30 games.
He might be able to bounce back and he's shown he can play in the playoffs. I mean, there's certain things about Murray that are very, very appealing.
I don't know if he can last the whole playoffs. That's the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, but there's certain things about him that are
Is he?
appealing if you are not depending on him. Like if
Nedeljkovic is an option. He's 1 year left at $3 million. So yeah, that would be somebody. But I don't know if Detroit's going to trade him. Whether they have Husso now. So I mean, they have a good situation
I
for a
don't
year.
think they're going to trade him because
Right.
even though they got Husso, I think they probably still want the other guy too,
Yeah,
Nedeljkovic,
really-
just in case.
Yeah, I mean, you need two goalies. I mean, and you need two NHL goalies. So they have two NHL goalies. So
Right, and I think do I know who that second goalie is? No, and you know what? If it's James Reimer, Steve Dangle, my friend Steve Dangle will be ecstatic. I wouldn't be because I don't like James Reimer as a goaltender. I don't think he's dependable. But yeah, and then Vince just said, "What about James Reimer?" But for 40 games, okay. But whoever the second goalie is, when the playoffs come around, and they will make the playoffs, Matt Murray would be the starting goaltender.
Jesus Christ.
Cam Talbot would be a possibility, but I love what Bill Guerin said. Bill Guerin basically said, I don't give a crap what people are saying. I'm keeping Cam Talbot. He's got a tandem of Talbot and Fleury, and he's not going to trade. Now, if he gets an offer that's too good to refuse, then he might do that. But I'm just saying, like, I'm not as sanguine, or I'm sorry, I'm not as negative about Matt Murray as a lot of people are out there, because all they see is what Matt Murray, his and I looked into it, Russ. It was the last game of the regular season that before Murray was shut down. He gave up 8 goals to the Arizona Coyotes. Before then, his save percentage was better than Jack Campbell's. It was 915. So one game ruined his stats.
Right.
It's okay. I'll take the guy who plays more. Who actually who
was hurt the last 3 years again, as what like Murray was.
Except
Campbell 15 wins. Yeah, right. 15 wins since he's left the Penguins. Basically is what it comes down to. Now it's been a lot of injuries, a lot of different situations, of course, and listen, I am the eternal optimist, as you guys always accuse me of, and I can see Murray being the guy who comes back and like actually does something significant. I think it's a hell of a risk, I think it's like, all right, maybe he is the guy who does this. Maybe he is the guy who leads the Leafs to the Stanley Cup like he's been there before. But I think that he is going to be your starter because there's nobody else. Like the only goalie I hear it's available that's even has had some NHL experience might be Mackenzie Blackwood.
And that might be a good possibility.
I think what's being overlooked here, Rick, I just went back and read a 2020 article. Why did the Penguins get rid of Matt Murray?
Right.
Injury prone, often inconsistent.
Right. Even with the Penguins.
Even with the
team he won with. So I mean, yeah, that he was, and they could not. They just were too nervous to put too much money into him, and they needed a goalie. I mean, they were in a situation where they needed goalies too, and they let him go. Now
and how's that worked out for him?
Not well. I mean, they've had good seasons. They haven't won the playoffs.
It wouldn't have been any better with him.
They won 2 Stanley Cups with him.
They won 2 Stanley Cups with him. I'm talking about
after.
Yeah, I know.
But since they let him go, they haven't won anything. Granted, so you can say that
the decision to go with Tristan Jarry, and I'm not slamming Tristan Jarry, but the decision to go with Jarry has not panned out for Pittsburgh. We don't know what would have happened had they kept Murray. The reason they traded Murray was money. He was an RFA, and they could afford him.
Money because of the other 2 things I just told
you. Money because they couldn't pay somebody who won 2 Stanley Cups for them.
No, but he had already gotten injury prone. He had already gotten his play had already gone down, and that's why they weren't going to pay him. It was if a contract could come up a year earlier, sure, it would have been different. But whatever, they weren't going to go as far. So the reality was that he started going downhill in Pittsburgh. Then, that's why Ottawa got him for not very much. And the reality is that
second round pick, I think it was.
Yeah, right. Second round pick, right? So, for a goalie who won a couple Stanley Cups, that it was still pretty young. That's not a lot. So the reality is here that, teams are just not willing, and the Leafs are just another one. They're not willing to pay a little bit extra for the most important position in the league when they're willing to pay a little bit extra for like third line players. And that is just astonishing to me. And this will be, this just has such a disaster written all over it moment, and I hate it, and it frustrates the hell out of me because I think that, but I don't see Mackenzie Blackwood. Okay, so let's say they trade for Mackenzie Blackwood, who I like. I think Mackenzie, but he's had issues obviously,
Yes.
and he hasn't played well either. So again, you're talking about putting people into the Toronto world who have
Mhm.
had issues, and expect them to play goalie and lead you to the promised land. Right? That's what you're looking at. So. Mackenzie Blackwood and Matt Murray. How can that possibly be better than Campbell?
Well, Jack Campbell's the nicest guy in the world, and what did he do?
He took him within one goal of beating the Toronto Maple Leafs.
They lost.
mean, like,
Heck, I don't care if it was 1 goal or 7. They lost. They
But
lost. They lost to the worst playoff team.
You know, we wouldn't. Here's the thing.
You're not putting that on him, though.
If they weren't paying
He's part
so
of it.
much, hold on. If they weren't paying so much for the core four, we
Right.
wouldn't be talking about these goaltending situations. But this is what Dubas has.
I wish I would said that. I wish I could say it's true, Russ, but I don't think so. They do
could
have the money to do this.
Russ, I do think if they had more cap space, and if say they traded Nylander, they would still walk away from Campbell.
I do too.
No, but I still think, well, in the early goings of this, they could have gotten somebody better.
Yeah.
Now they can't. Now they're just getting another goalie they have to hope to rehab.
Yeah, someone brought up Varlamov in the chat room. He doesn't want to go. I've talked to people.
He doesn't want to go. Rob Blake at the draft apparently told people that Quick is staying.
Yeah, Quick decided to stay. That was Gibson does not want to go either. Gibson's not going anywhere. So
yeah, but see, that's not up to Gibson. Gibson has a modified. I love that Kurt Overhard comes out and says, and of course he says, he says that because his other client is Campbell. So of course,
well, I think he must know who Gibson's got on the list, don't you?
Yeah,
think?
If Toronto's on the list,
he wouldn't say it otherwise.
Gibson,
Mike.
yeah. No, Gibson wouldn't let him do that, and Gibson would be like, "What the hell?" Like if he's not. Right. If Gibson obviously said, "I don't want to go to Toronto," to him, that's clear as day because, why not? Like it would be a great
reflected on the list.
So I mean, you go through the league, you go goalie by goalie by goalie. Are you, team by team by team, trying to find the team that's willing to trade you one of their goalies, and you have to go to a team that's not in the playoffs. First of all, you have because any team that's in the playoffs is going to keep both their goalies. So you have to go to teams that aren't in the playoffs.
San Jose.
And then, all right, San Jose. Look at the goalies they have there.
Kakkonen, Aiden Hill, and Reimer.
Okay, right. Reimer, you've been there, done that, but sure, Reimer's.
But you're talking about Reimer as a backup or a tandem guy, and not as a starter. That's the issue.
Yeah, but you're a Stanley Cup champion.
That's the intention, but he still could end up as
you're a Stanley Cup contender, and you're going to have a tandem of two guys who are both who's questionable. I mean, it's like I don't care. I mean, people are bringing up that Campbell had a bad November or whatever. Forget about that. It doesn't. He's still a good goalie. I mean, we're looking at better goalies than we're looking.
I'm not saying he's not a good goalie. I'm saying they don't believe he's a $5 million. This is what I've been saying for 2 weeks. They think he's a good goalie. He's not a $5 million goaltender. And when they're up against it, they can't pay him.
So when's the last time they've been right about a goalie, Mike?
Well, Russ, eventually they have to be right, don't they?
Well, no, that's not true.
Eventually they'll win a playoff series, Mike. This will happen. I mean, it's going to happen. Like eventually everything happens. But the reality
is they have had a lot of flawed thinking when it comes to the goaltender position.
And Russ, and maybe not to put it all on him, but you have they just let go of the goaltending coach for after 7 years, and I would think that the way that organization works, they consulted the goaltending coach and asked, should we sign Peter Mrazek to a 3-year deal? Is Freddie Anderson good enough? How about Jack Campbell? Is he a good starter? You know what I'm saying? That's the guy they consult with, and now he's no longer in the organization. Now, by the way, that guy is now with Edmonton, so that might be another reason why Jack Campbell ends up with the Oilers.
All right, so Kevin Allen on Q has posted us something just in the last little bit here that says not many options on the menu in the NHL goaltender market. Here, he goes through them basically. He starts with Jack Campbell.
This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Let's not
Kevin doesn't know what he's talking about, right? He talks about Campbell, then Kemper, then Murray, then Talbot, who is not going anywhere either. Varlamov is not going anywhere. Gibson is not going anywhere. So we're trying to find these other goalies. Basically, you are looking at a Mackenzie Blackwood or a Reimer or Bernier type goalie who's out there who's just, Bernier's hurt, right?
Not Bernier, not Holtby. Holtby's
hurt. Bernier's hurt. I don't know, Bishop's hurt. Bishop's. There's nowhere else. There's Bishop's done right. There's nobody else. So I mean, basically, it's going to be Matt Murray, and he's going to be. I mean, it's got to be Matt Murray at this point. Toronto's backed himself into a corner with it, so it's going to be Matt Murray, right? But I don't see how he's not your starter. I don't see how you can't make. I don't see any, because he is by far the best option you have right now.
Correct. He's going to be their starter in the playoffs, but during the regular season, he is going to be part of a tandem, and they will probably break it down half and half.
Right. Okay. All right.
So wait. So what is the plan? And this is what they're going to ask Kyle Dubas. He hasn't played more than 30 games in the last 3 years. Right. How are you going to get him to even be healthy come playoff time?
You're the one who always talks about that, Mike. That's your word.
I know, but Ack, the upside on Murray, which is, and I've been an advocate of them trading for Matt Murray since his contract situation with Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I know.
The upside is this is a guy who in the cup, in the playoffs, played at a high level. Freddie Anderson had not. Jack Campbell had not. Matt Murray has. Now, whether he can stay healthy enough, whether his problems that he has had are straightened out by the beginning of the season. I mean, that's why they're doing their medical due diligence now. And if they find that he can't, then the deal won't be done. But I think that it's far enough along that'll probably end up happening. But I think he'll probably end up playing, 45 games, and the other goalie, if it's Reimer or if it's, Aiden Hill or whoever, will play, 35, 36, 37 games.
Right. Okay. All right. Okay. We'll see. I mean, I think that sounds like a recipe for a playoff bubble team, but I think that not necessarily a team that could be a cup contender. So that's what we'll find out. I mean, we'll find out. I mean, Campbell, Edmonton's thrilled they're going to get Campbell for sure. And I think they should be, because I think they're actually going to have, for the first time in a long time in Edmonton, they're going to have a guy who can play well in pressure situations. I mean,
and Campbell won't be so thrilled with Edmonton's defense about 20 games into the regular season.
I just want to point this out so it's on the record. I feel like I have to be like that lawyer that puts things on the record. Okay. So in 2018, a guy named Mac Gajtka, I'm not going to mispronounce your name, he put out a list of injuries of Matt Murray's. Mm-hmm. He had 7 injuries, 1 IR stint, and he already had missed 19 games due to injury in 2018.
Right.
It's not gotten any better, Mike.
2018.
Russ, how do we know?
Okay.
Well,
that's
how do you know? Campbell has been hurt every single year.
Every goalie gets hurt, but but it's why you have to have 2 goalies, right?
But the most important part of the year, they had Peter Mrazek, Eric Shalgren, and they were trying to get Harry Sateri on the roster. Jack Campbell's not much better than Matt Murray in terms of his availability. My God.
No, but no, he played a lot
more
games
than Matt Murray. Defense rests, I'm good.
Yeah, defense. They spent a lot more games than Matt Murray, obviously. He's been a lot healthier than Matt Murray, obviously. And also hasn't had all those injuries played with Matt Murray's head. I mean, that's one of the things that you've heard a lot about Matt Murray.
Plus he's had concussion problems.
Campbell has made Campbell's made the playoffs the last 2 years, and Murray hasn't, because Murray is playing in front of the Ottawa Senators with their bad defense, with their young forwards.
Give you that. Yeah. I mean, I'll give you that for sure. But I think at the same time,
3-dimensional, not two-dimensional thinking here, folks.
I think that, I don't know. Only time will tell at this point, but it's impossible for me to be excited about Toronto at this point, because it's just, this is a really tough. They really have, and it sucks because
that's perfect, because then you won't pick them to win the division, you won't pick them to win the playoffs, and maybe they will. Maybe
they will. But I just think that, my gosh, Dubas is starting to get a lot of doubters around the league. I'll say that the way he's handled the situation, or a lot of people that I've talked to are like, "What the heck is they're really like in all these other GMs and everybody else is saying this is really just." They are really throwing out the baby with the bathwater in this situation.
And if he paid Campbell the money that Campbell was asking for, there would be just as many doubters out there saying, "Why are you paying Jack?"
I disagree with that.
I totally disagree with that. Even now, if he turned around, if he turned around right now and they came to realize, well, wait a second, maybe we don't want Matt Murray as our, maybe this isn't the best thing, and they went back to Campbell, they could still get a deal done. I think even now.
And he wasn't the reason they lost the playoffs, and he had a great winning percentage with the team. Why would I be unhappy that he's back?
I mean, you could then look at the options. It's not like but looking at the options, you'd have to. He's by far the best option right now, and that's the other thing too. Like if you gotten Marc-Andre Fleury, okay, great, but you didn't. If you gotten this guy, great, but you didn't. You didn't get even Husa is like not at Matt Murray's level, not at Campbell's level. But if you got him, you could say, okay, great, that's something. But now I don't know, at this point you're stuck, and now.
You have to remember here, you're not getting Matt Murray at $6.25 million. You're probably getting him in the threes, and that
you're gonna get what you pay for, Mike. I agree with you. You're gonna have $5 million in two goalies. You're gonna probably be paying about $5 million for both goalies combined, which is just by far the lowest amount of any team that made the playoffs last year paying for goalies. Not even close. It's not even close. Like there's no other team in the league that made the playoffs last year, not just won a playoff round, but made the playoffs. That's going to be paying under $5 million for both their goalies.
Well, not under, but
around $5 million, even around $5 million.
Probably around $6, I would think. But honestly, you I don't think you can get much worse than what's happened the last few years. You lost to the worst team in the playoffs 2 years ago.
You did, and that you can put that, you can even pin that one on Campbell, but he came back with a bounce back season, and to me that's, and you didn't lose the worst team in the playoffs last year. So if we were coming off that loss to Montreal in the first round, this might have a little more logic to it. But even then, you would turn around and say he's still the best option out there. We're still stuck.
No, right? We'll see. We'll see after this year, because I mean, you are right in one respect. You are right in one respect. If their goaltending situation is not improved and Murray gets hurt and they barely make the playoffs and lose in the first round, then Kyle Dubas and Sheldon Keefe will be done. But they're gambling on somebody that they know, somebody that they've had experience with, somebody who has won Stanley Cups, and that's somebody who they believe in. And if that's where they're going to go, then that's where they're going to go.
I can't believe how fast the time's gone today, guys.
I'll give you the equivalent. If I had a chance in a pickleball draft of drafting the 10-year-old or Eck, I know Eck. I've known him for a long time. I know he plays pickleball. I'm taking the 10-year-old.
Every day of the week, Russ. We're going to be watching those kids in the Olympics. I mean, so this doesn't even,
but you have to pay those kids.
You're not going to be seeing me in the pickleball Olympics, I promise you.
I don't know.
If you have to pay those guys $5 million, you're taking Eck because he's cheaper.
But you got to draft both of them somehow because they're brother and sister team.
Yeah.
But that's like, so no, there's no question. I mean, this time went so fast. But the other things I wanted to talk about, we won't even talk about.
I'll mention the Romanov deal. I felt the Islanders made out great there. I don't think Minnesota, the Canadians ever used them right.
No. Yeah, I agree with that, and I think they will use him right. I think he's going to be great in that system. I think he's going to be, I'm not going to say he's at the Devin Tays area, but he's going to fill that role a little bit, which they haven't had anybody fill.
Yeah.
No, but at least he's mobile.
At least he's mobile. Both Stromes, Dylan and Ryan Strome are on the Canadians' radar. I was told there's two centers there that are absolutely interesting. I think Dylan Strome's are really interesting. I'm ready to go, guys. I mean, anytime you need me, you want me to be the goalie, I can do it. I might have a lot more. I probably have a lot more injuries than either of those guys, but hey, we'll see what happens. So the Stromes, I think, are Dylan Strome's an interesting name now that he's out there. He's a center. I mean, it's like you don't see centers come up like this very often. Russ, where do you think he could go?
It's a good question. I mean, I kind of wonder if the Rangers would talk to him if they wanted both Stromes. I wouldn't do it, but you never know.
Yeah. I mean, the Rangers have had interest in Dylan Strome in the past for sure.
They have.
So, and another name that we're going to talk more about tomorrow is just really an interesting one is Palat, who is starting to sound a little bit more and more like he's not going to return to Tampa, which is really surprising.
It sounds like he wants to explore the market and see what is out there for him before going back there. And I know
that was the basis of my article that everybody said, no way.
Yeah, right. That's true. I know that the Predators, or he's on the Predators' radar. I talked to somebody in Nashville today who said, we're looking at Palat as a possibility. That could be interesting. McDonough knew something there.
A clutch goal scorer going to Nashville. Can he do it?
I'd like to see it. I'd like to see at least. I'd like to see it try. I'd like to see them try at least because yeah, they need a clutch goal scorer in the worst possible way. So
They
yeah,
do.
I think that would be worth it. Obviously, they got the Forsberg deal signed over the weekend. We talked about that, but yeah, I would like that. I mean, Palat would be a big deal for the Predators to pull in. That'd be something. We'll see what happens there, but for sure. But I do think that there's I think they're going to be interesting to watch. I do agree. I think the Predators. There's someone in the chat room said they're going to be interesting to watch. I think the Predators are going to be interesting to watch. Obviously, Poyle doesn't mind making trades and doesn't mind doing things, at the moment when he can. Like the McDonough signing is a perfect example. That's it's a great. It's an interesting move for them. They aren't necessarily a cup contender yet, so for them to go after McDonough was surprising a little bit. Go ahead.
Last note here before we sign off.
Yep.
Dave, Kevin Weeks is reporting that David Krejci and the Bruins are in negotiations. So it sounds like him and Bergeron will be back as their 1-2 punch next year.
Yep, they're gonna get that done, I was told. That definitely shows a little bit about why they moved Cassidy. It really can't help but think that Cassidy was a problem with both those players, and
he wore on them after a while.
Yeah, now he's gone. That's not against Cassidy for whatever reason. I have a tough time with that, but we'll see, guys. All right, we'll be back again tomorrow, and then tomorrow is the eve of UFA day. So all day long, keep checking the Hockey Buzz rumor free agency tracker. I updated like 20 guys on the rumor chart. We'll get to all that tomorrow too, and we'll get to all that, of course, on Wednesday as well. We'll go through the rumor chart as we go through it too. There's still so many things. It's so incredibly overwhelming right now. I don't have enough RAM in my head to figure out all this stuff and try to track all these players. Remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. We will talk to you all tomorrow.